I found out my fiancée was cheating on me while I was dying in a hospital bed. But that's not even the worst part. The man she was fucking, I'd literally saved his life 6 months earlier. And when I discovered the truth, I didn't cry, I didn't rage, I didn't beg. I became something else entirely. Something cold, something calculating. And I made sure that when the dust settled, she had absolutely nothing left. My name is Marcus Chen, and until 18 months ago, I thought I had life figured out. I was 32, a senior mechanical engineer at a renewable energy startup in Portland, pulling down 6 figures with stock options that were actually worth something. I'd been with my fiancée, Amanda, for 4 years. We'd met at a friend's wedding, one of those romantic origin stories people love to hear. She was a pediatric nurse, beautiful in that girl next door way, with auburn hair and green eyes that seemed to see right through you. We got engaged on a camping trip to Crater Lake. I'd planned it for months, hiding the ring in my sleeping bag, waiting for the perfect sunrise moment. She cried when I asked her. Real tears. I remember thinking I was the luckiest man alive. We'd set a date for October, 14 months away. The planning consumed our lives in that exciting, exhausting way wedding planning does. Amanda wanted everything perfect. The venue, the flowers, the photographer who cost more than my first car. I didn't care about the details. I just wanted to marry her, to start the next chapter, maybe buy a house, think about kids in a few years. Work was demanding but rewarding. Our team was developing a new type of wind turbine bearing system that could revolutionize efficiency in low wind conditions. I was the lead on the project, which meant long hours, but Amanda understood. She worked 12-hour shifts at the children's hospital, so we were both used to the grind. Then came February 14th, Valentine's Day. The irony still makes me laugh, in that bitter way you laugh when the universe reveals its sense of humor. I was driving home from a site visit in Seattle, taking Highway 26 through the Coast Range. It was raining, that heavy Pacific Northwest rain that turns the world gray and makes the road disappear. I was thinking about the reservation I'd made at Amanda's favorite Italian place, the vintage necklace I'd bought her sitting in a wrapped box in my glove compartment. I saw the car in the ditch about 2 miles past the Elsie turnoff. A blue Honda Civic, front end crumpled against a tree, hazards blinking weakly through the downpour. No other cars around, no one stopping. Just me and whatever poor bastard was in that wreck. I pulled over without thinking. That's who I was then. The guy who helped. The guy who did the right thing. The driver's side door was jammed, but I could see him through the shattered window. A man, maybe late 20s, unconscious, blood running down his face from a gash above his eyebrow. The smell of gasoline was strong. The engine was still making that ticking sound hot metal makes when it's cooling down too fast. I called 911 first, gave them the location, then I made a decision that would end up destroying my life. I forced the door open with a tire iron from my trunk and pulled him out, dragging him about 50 feet from the vehicle. 2 minutes later, the car caught fire. Not an explosion like in movies, just a sudden rush of flame that consumed the interior in seconds. The paramedics arrived 10 minutes later. The guy was breathing, but still unconscious. They told me I'd saved his life, that if I hadn't pulled him out, he would have burned or died from smoke inhalation. The police took my statement. I gave them my contact information and left, missing my dinner reservation, but feeling like I'd done something meaningful. His name was Tyler Brennan. I know because he called me 2 weeks later, after he got out of the hospital. Wanted to thank me personally, said he owed me everything. His voice was young, earnest, grateful, in a way that made me uncomfortable. I told him it was nothing, anyone would have done the same, but he insisted on taking me out for coffee. We met at a place downtown. He was younger than I'd thought, 27, with that kind of lean, artistic look some guys have. Clean-shaven, dark hair, bright blue eyes that Amanda would later describe as soulful in one of the text messages I'd eventually read. He was a freelance photographer, he told me, specializing in weddings and portraits. The accident happened because he'd been rushing to a client meeting and hit a patch of black ice. We talked for an hour. He showed me some of his work on his phone. He was talented, I had to admit. There was something about the way he captured moments, the intimacy of it. And then, in what seemed like fate at the time but now feels like the universe's cruelest joke, he asked if I was married. I told him I was engaged. Showed him a picture of Amanda on my phone. He said she was beautiful. Asked when the wedding was. I told him October. And then I made the second decision that would destroy everything. I said we were still looking for a photographer. Our original choice had moved to California. Tyler's eyes lit up. He said he'd do it for free as a way to repay me for saving his life. I tried to refuse, but he was insistent. Eventually, we compromised. He'd give us a massive discount, and I'd feel less guilty about accepting his gratitude. Amanda loved his portfolio. We met with him together at our apartment in late February. She talked to him about the vision for the wedding, the mood she wanted to capture. He listened intently, asked thoughtful questions, made her laugh. I remember feeling good about the choice, like we'd found not just a photographer, but maybe a new friend. He started coming by the apartment sometimes to discuss shot lists and location scouting. Amanda had better availability than I did, with my work schedule, so often she'd meet with him alone. I trusted her completely. Trusted him too. After all, I'd saved his life. Then, in mid-March, my body betrayed me. It started with fatigue, the kind that goes beyond normal tiredness. I'd come home from work and barely make it to the couch. Amanda noticed, but attributed it to work stress. I thought the same. But then came the night sweats, drenching my sheets until I had to change them at 3 a.m. The unexplained bruising on my arms and legs. The persistent fever that Tylenol couldn't touch. Amanda, being a nurse, recognized the signs before I did. She made me go to our primary care doctor, who took one look at my blood work and sent me directly to an oncologist. I'll never forget that afternoon in Dr. Reeves's office, Amanda holding my hand, both of us trying to process the words, acute myeloid leukemia. Stage 3. Aggressive, treatable, but requiring immediate and intensive chemotherapy, possibly a bone marrow transplant. My life collapsed into a clinical nightmare of hospital stays, PICC lines, poison dripped into my veins to kill the poison in my blood. Amanda was perfect at first. Attentive, caring, sleeping in a chair beside my hospital bed during the worst nights. She'd bring me books, play my favorite music on her phone, hold my hand while I vomited into a basin until there was nothing left but bile and despair. But then, about 3 weeks into treatment, something changed in a way I couldn't quite name. Something in her eyes when she looked at me. Or maybe something in her eyes when she looked away. The first red flag was so subtle I almost missed it. Amanda started checking her phone constantly during her visits. Not occasionally, the way anyone does, but compulsively. Every few minutes, her hand would drift to her purse, she'd glance at the screen, and this little smile would flicker across her face before she remembered where she was and who she was with. When I asked about it, she said it was work stuff. Scheduling issues at the hospital. I believed her because, why wouldn't I? I was the one dying, not her. I was the one who needed support, not suspicion. The second flag came a week later. She started arriving late to her daily visits, sometimes by an hour or more. Always with an excuse. Traffic. A last-minute shift change. Her mother needing help with something. Each reason sounded plausible in isolation, but together they formed a pattern I was too sick and too trusting to see. Then there were the phone calls she'd take in the hallway. She'd excuse herself, saying she needed to stretch her legs or get coffee, but through the partially open door, I could hear her voice change. Softer, more intimate, laughing in that way she used to laugh with me when we first started dating. When she came back, I'd ask who it was. Just Sarah, she'd say, naming her work friend, or her sister, or the wedding planner. Always someone benign, always someone I had no reason to question. My best friend Jake visited me more than my own fiancée did during that period. Jake had been my roommate in college, a software engineer who now worked remotely and had the flexibility to spend hours sitting with me, watching baseball games on the tiny hospital TV, talking about anything except cancer. Jake noticed what I was too compromised to see. One evening in early April, after Amanda had left early claiming exhaustion, he asked me point blank if everything was okay with us. "What do you mean?" I asked. "I don't know, man. She just seems distant, distracted, like her mind is somewhere else." I defended her immediately. "She's stressed," I said. "She's dealing with a lot. Her fiancé has cancer. She's allowed to be distracted." Jake didn't push it, but I saw the doubt in his eyes, the concern. I told myself he was wrong, that my illness was making everyone paranoid and overly sensitive. The third major flag came in mid-April, about 6 weeks into my treatment. Amanda mentioned that Tyler, our wedding photographer, had been checking in on her, making sure she was holding up okay under the stress. He'd taken her to coffee a few times, she said casually, to get her mind off things. Something cold moved through my chest when she told me this, something that had nothing to do with the chemotherapy. But I swallowed it down. Tyler was a good guy, I told myself. He was being supportive. That's what friends do. "That's nice of him," I managed to say. "He's really sweet," Amanda replied, and the way she said sweet made that cold feeling expand. "He said we should postpone the wedding if we need to, that he'd hold the date for us whenever we're ready." Postpone the wedding. The wedding that was supposed to happen in 6 months. The wedding we'd both been planning for over a year. She said it so easily, like it was a minor logistical adjustment rather than an acknowledgement that our future was crumbling. "I don't want to postpone it," I said. "I'll be better by then," Dr. Reeves said, "if the treatment works." "If, Marcus. If it works, we need to be realistic." Realistic. That word became her mantra over the following weeks. We need to be realistic about your prognosis. We need to be realistic about the recovery timeline. We need to be realistic about our expectations. What she meant, I would later understand, was that she needed to be realistic about whether she wanted to marry a man who might die before the vows were exchanged. The fourth flag was the most damning, but I was too weak to recognize it. Amanda stopped wearing her engagement ring. She claimed it was because she was washing her hands so frequently at work and didn't want to damage it or risk losing it. She'd leave it on our dresser at home, she said, safer that way. Except one night, when Jake was visiting and Amanda was at work, I asked him to grab my phone charger from our apartment. He had a spare key. When he came back, he didn't say anything at first, just plugged in my phone and sat down. "What?" I asked, reading his face. "Nothing, Jake." "What?" He exhaled slowly. "Her ring wasn't on the dresser, man. I looked. I shouldn't have, but I did. It wasn't there. Maybe she wore it to work today." Maybe. But we both knew she hadn't. We both knew what it meant when a woman stops wearing her engagement ring and lies about where it is. I should have confronted her. I should have asked hard questions and demanded honest answers. But I didn't, because 2 days later my treatment took a turn for the worse, and I was fighting for my life in ways that made relationship concerns seem almost trivial. The infection started in my chest. Pneumonia, a common and deadly complication for chemotherapy patients with decimated immune systems. My fever spiked to under 4. I was moved to the ICU, placed on IV antibiotics, supplemental oxygen. For 48 hours, the doctors weren't sure I'd make it. Amanda was there through it all. Crying, praying, holding my hand like she'd never let go. In those moments, I forgot about the late arrivals and the secret phone calls and the missing ring. She was my Amanda again, the woman I fell in love with, the woman who'd said yes at Crater Lake. When I stabilized and was moved back to a regular room, she seemed transformed. Attentive again. Present. She brought me homemade soup that her mother made. She read to me from a novel I'd been too sick to focus on myself. She talked about the future, about our wedding, about the house we'd buy, the trips we'd take once I was better. I wanted to believe it was real, that the crisis had reminded her of what mattered, that she'd recommitted to us. "I'm sorry I've been distant," she said one evening, sitting on the edge of my bed. "This has all been so scary, and I haven't handled it well. But I'm here, Marcus. I'm not going anywhere." I believed her. God help me, I believed her. She even put the ring back on. Showed it to me one morning, the diamond catching the fluorescent hospital light. "Where it belongs," she said, kissing my forehead. Tyler sent a care package. A basket of magazines, crossword puzzles, protein bars, and a handwritten card wishing me a speedy recovery. Amanda delivered it with a smile, said Tyler was thinking of us. The guy I saved was being thoughtful. How could I be suspicious of that? Jake remained skeptical. "It feels like she's overcompensating," he said during one visit. "Like she's trying too hard." "Or maybe she's just trying," I countered. "Maybe she's doing her best in an impossible situation." Maybe. But I could tell he wasn't convinced. And somewhere deep in my gut, beneath the nausea and the fear and the desperate hope, I wasn't convinced either. The false calm lasted about 3 weeks. I was responding well to treatment. My blood counts were improving. Dr. Reeves was cautiously optimistic about my prognosis. We started talking about outpatient treatment, about me going home soon, about rebuilding some semblance of normal life. Amanda seemed happy about this. Relieved. She talked about setting up a recovery space in our bedroom, about adjusting her work schedule to take care of me. She contacted the wedding planner to confirm we were still on track for October. Everything seemed to be falling into place. But then came the small inconsistencies. The details that didn't add up. She mentioned having lunch with her sister on a Tuesday, but when I spoke to her sister on the phone later that week, she mentioned being at a work conference that entire Tuesday. Amanda must have mixed up her days, I told myself. She said she was working a double shift on a Saturday, but when I called the hospital's main line to leave a message for her, they said she wasn't on the schedule. She must have picked up the shift last minute, I rationalized. She came to visit me one evening with what looked like a hickey on her neck. When I asked about it, she said she'd burned herself with a curling iron. The shape seemed wrong for that, but I was too exhausted to push. These weren't red flags anymore. They were crimson banners waving in my face. But I was still in that strange denial that comes with betrayal, that cognitive dissonance where you know something is wrong but can't quite force yourself to name it. And then came the night that destroyed everything. The night I learned the truth in the most devastating way possible. It was a Thursday in late May. I'd been in the hospital for just over 2 months. I was alone because Amanda had to work a night shift. At least, that's what she told me. I was reading, trying to distract myself from the relentless boredom of hospital life, when my phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. "Thinking of you, man. Hang in there. You're the strongest person I know." I smiled, despite myself. He'd been good about checking in, sending encouraging messages every few days. I texted back a thank you, told him I was doing better. Then, maybe 30 seconds later, another text appeared. But this one wasn't meant for me. "God, I can't wait to see you. I miss your body so much. Tonight can't come fast enough." My heart stopped, literally stopped for what felt like several seconds before resuming at double speed. It had to be a mistake. A wrong number. Except it was from Tyler's phone. From the contact I'd saved as Tyler, photographer. My hands were shaking as I typed, "Wrong person?" 3 dots appeared immediately. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Then, oh fuck. Marcus, I'm so sorry. That wasn't meant for you. Who was it meant for? The dots appeared and disappeared several times. A minute passed. 2 minutes. Then, I can't do this over text. I'm coming to the hospital. Don't, I typed. Just tell me. Who was that message for? But he'd stopped responding. I called him. It went to voicemail. Called again. Voicemail. Sent 5 more texts demanding an answer. Nothing. My mind was racing through possibilities. He was seeing someone, obviously. He'd accidentally sent me a text meant for his girlfriend. But why did that fill me with such existential dread? Why did it feel like the ground was opening beneath me? Then a thought formed. A terrible, impossible thought. I opened my phone's location sharing app. Amanda and I had shared our locations with each other years ago, one of those couple things you do for convenience and safety. I'd rarely checked it, had no reason to, but now my hands were moving before my brain could stop them. Her location popped up. Not at the hospital where she claimed to be working. Not anywhere near the hospital. She was at an apartment complex on the east side. An address I didn't recognize. I pulled up the text Tyler had accidentally sent me. Read it again. I miss your body so much. No. No, 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 no. I called Amanda. Straight to voicemail. Called again. Voicemail. Texted, "Where are you?" No response. I checked her location again. Still at that same address. I zoomed in on the map, street view, tried to see what building it was. A modern apartment complex. New construction. Expensive looking. My hospital room felt like it was shrinking. The walls closing in. The steady beep of my IV pump became deafening. I was going to be sick. I reached for the basin beside my bed, but nothing came up. Just dry heaves that hurt my chest. Jake. I needed Jake. I called him. He answered on the second ring. "Marcus, what's wrong? Are you okay?" "I need you to do something for me," I said, my voice not sounding like my own. "I need you to go to an address. Right now." "What? Why? What's happening?" I gave him the address from Amanda's location. "Tell me who's there. Tell me what you see." "Marcus, you're scaring me. What's going on? Please, Jake. Please just do this. I'll explain everything, but I need you to go there now." Something in my voice must have convinced him. Okay, I'm leaving now. It's about 20 minutes from my place. Stay on the phone with me." Those 20 minutes were the longest of my life. Jake kept trying to get me to explain, but I couldn't form the words. I just kept saying, "Just get there. Please, just get there." I checked Amanda's location obsessively. Still there. Not moving. Finally, Jake said, "I'm pulling up now. It's a nice apartment building. Raven's Crest Apartments. What am I looking for?" "Amanda's car. A silver Camry. License plate." I gave him the number. Silence. Then, "Marcus, it's here. Her car is here." The world tilted. "What floor? Can you see which apartment?" "There's a directory in the lobby, but I'd need to..." "Wait, Marcus. I see her. She's coming out of the building. Is she alone?" A pause that lasted forever. "No. There's a guy with her. Dark hair. Fuck, Marcus, they're kissing. Right there in the parking lot." "Describe him." "Late 20s, dark hair, kind of artistic looking. Wearing a denim jacket. It's Tyler," I said. The words felt like glass in my throat. The photographer. The guy I saved. Jesus Christ. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. Get pictures, I heard myself say. Calm. Clinical. Like I was giving instructions for a work project. Get clear pictures of them together. Make sure you get timestamps. Are you sure you want? Do it, Jake. He did. I could hear him moving, the click of his phone camera. Got it. Multiple shots. They're getting into his car now. A blue Honda Civic. The car I'd pulled him from. The car that would have been his coffin, if not for me. Follow them, I said. Marcus, follow them, please. He did. He followed them to a restaurant. Took pictures of them holding hands across the table. Kissing over dessert. Looking at each other the way Amanda used to look at me. The way she'd looked at me just that morning when she'd kissed me goodbye and told me she loved me. But Jake wasn't done. What he discovered next made betrayal look like a mercy. Jake stayed until they left the restaurant, followed them back to Tyler's apartment. They went inside together. He waited. 1 hour. 2 hours. At 11 p.m. he texted me, "They're still inside. I think she's staying the night." I couldn't respond, couldn't move, couldn't think beyond the images burning in my mind. But Jake, bless him, wasn't satisfied with just visual confirmation. He wanted the whole story. He wanted ammunition. The next morning, Friday, he did something that would change everything. He went back to Tyler's apartment complex and waited in the parking lot. When Tyler left around 10 a.m., Jake followed him to a coffee shop, and there he approached him. Jake recorded the conversation on his phone. He sent me the audio file with a warning, "This is going to hurt." He was right. Jake had posed as a friend of mine, someone who'd heard Tyler was the photographer for our wedding. He'd asked casual questions, made small talk, gained Tyler's trust. And then, skillfully, he'd steered the conversation to Amanda. Tyler had no idea Jake knew anything. He thought he was talking to a stranger, someone disconnected from the situation. And once he started talking, everything spilled out. Tyler had fallen in love with Amanda the first time they'd met at our apartment to discuss the wedding. He described it as an instant connection, a chemistry he'd never felt before. They'd started texting constantly, then meeting for coffee, then lunch, then dinner. The affair had started in early April, just a few weeks after my diagnosis. While I was in the hospital fighting for my life, she was in his bed. But here's what destroyed me. Tyler admitted he'd been conflicted about it at first. He'd felt guilty because I'd saved his life. He said that exact phrase. I felt guilty because Marcus saved my life. But Amanda had convinced him it was okay, that our relationship had been failing for a while, that I was emotionally distant and married to my work, that she'd been planning to break up with me even before the cancer diagnosis, but then felt trapped by obligation and guilt. All lies. Our relationship had been strong. We'd been happy. We'd been planning a wedding. Tyler said Amanda had cried to him about how hard it was watching me suffer, how she couldn't handle hospitals and sickness and the reality of potentially becoming a widow before she was even a wife. She said I'd changed, that I wasn't the man she fell in love with anymore. Of course I'd changed. I was dying. But the worst part, the part that made me finally vomit into that basin beside my bed, was when Tyler told Jake that Amanda was planning to break up with me. As soon as he's stable enough to handle it, Tyler said. She doesn't want to do it while he's this sick. She's not cruel. She's not cruel. She was fucking another man in the bed of the man whose life I'd saved while I was poisoning myself with chemotherapy to try to live long enough to marry her. But she's not cruel. Jake had asked one final question. What if Marcus doesn't make it? What if he dies? Tyler's response, Then Amanda and I can finally be together without all the guilt and complications. I know that sounds horrible, but honestly, it might be easier for everyone. Easier for everyone if I died. The man whose life I'd saved hoped I'd die so he could have my fiancée without the messy complication of my existence. I listened to that recording 3 times. Each time, I felt something inside me crystallize, hardening, turning from flesh to stone to something colder than either. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't call Amanda and scream at her or call Tyler and threaten him. I did something that, looking back, I think scared Jake more than any emotional outburst would have. I became calm. Absolutely, perfectly calm. I called Jake and asked him to come to the hospital. When he arrived, I was sitting up in bed, my laptop open, a legal pad covered in notes. "Are you okay?" he asked carefully. "I'm perfect," I said. "I need your help with something, but first, I need to ask you a question. You work in tech. You understand digital forensics and data recovery, right?" "Yeah." "Why?" "Because I need to know how to access deleted text messages, emails, location data, everything. Can you do that?" "Marcus, what are you thinking?" "I'm thinking," I said, my voice flat and calm, "that I'm going to destroy both of them. Methodically. Completely. Legally. And I'm going to do it in a way that leaves them with absolutely nothing." Jake stared at me. "You're serious?" I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Over the next week, while Amanda continued her performance of the devoted fiancé during her visits, I orchestrated a campaign of information gathering that would have impressed a private investigator. Jake helped me access Amanda's cloud backup. We found everything. Thousands of texts between her and Tyler, photos they'd sent each other, voice memos, calendar entries for their dates while I was in treatment. I documented every lie she'd told me about where she was and who she was with. Created a spreadsheet cross-referencing her claimed locations with her actual locations. The deception was comprehensive and consistent. But I needed more. I needed legal leverage. I called a lawyer, Gregory Matthews, someone Jake knew through work. I explained the situation, sent him the evidence I'd compiled. He reviewed everything and called me back the same day. "This is devastating stuff, Marcus. I'm sorry you're going through this. What do you want to do?" "I want to know my options. We're not married yet, so I know divorce isn't applicable. But we have joint finances, a joint checking account. We're both on the lease for our apartment. She's the beneficiary on my life insurance. I want to know how to protect myself." Gregory walked me through it. Since we weren't married, I had more flexibility than I'd thought. I could remove her from my accounts, change my beneficiaries, end the lease and move out. "What about the wedding?" he asked. "You've probably paid deposits, made commitments." "We have. About $40,000 committed so far. Venue, catering, flowers. Half of it from my savings, half from hers. If you can prove she broke the engagement through infidelity, you might be able to recover your portion and possibly sue for additional damages, depending on how the contracts are written and what financial harm you can demonstrate." "I want to go further," I said. "I want to sue both of them, her for breach of promise to marry, him for alienation of affection." Gregory paused. "Alienation of affection isn't recognized in Oregon. But breach of promise to marry is, though it's rarely pursued anymore. You'd need to prove measurable damages. I have medical bills I can't pay because I've been too sick to work. I have therapy costs from the psychological trauma of being betrayed while dying. I have half a wedding budget spent in good faith. I have lost wages from stress and inability to focus on recovery. Is that measurable enough?" "More than enough. But Marcus, are you sure you want to do this? These cases get ugly. They're public. They're expensive." "I'm sure. Draw up everything. I want to move the moment I'm out of this hospital." "What about her? When are you going to confront her?" "I'm not," I said. Not yet. First, I'm going to let her think she's getting away with it. Over the next 2 weeks, I played the most convincing performance of my life. I was loving with Amanda, grateful for her support, excited about our wedding. I talked about the future, about growing old together, about the life we'd build. She ate it up, probably relieved that I suspected nothing, probably planning how she'd deliver the breakup speech Tyler mentioned once I was healthy enough to survive it. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, I was methodical. I opened a new bank account and transferred all my money. I removed her as the beneficiary on my life insurance and my retirement accounts, naming my mother instead. I contacted our landlord and explained I'd be breaking the lease for medical reasons, offered to pay the penalty fee myself. I collected every receipt, every invoice, every contract related to our wedding. Cross-referenced what we'd paid, what we owed, who'd contributed what. Jake helped me set up a secure cloud storage with all the evidence. Photos of Amanda and Tyler. Text message transcripts. Location data. The audio recording of Tyler's confession. Financial records showing Amanda's portion of wedding expenses. And then I got a call from Dr. Reeves that changed the timeline. My latest scans showed significant improvement. The leukemia was in remission. I'd need ongoing monitoring and maintenance therapy, but I was stable enough to be discharged. I was going home. Amanda cried happy tears when I told her, hugged me carefully, mindful of the PICC line still in my arm. "We're going to get through this," she said. "We're going to have our wedding and our life and everything we dreamed about." "I can't wait," I said, kissing her forehead. I was discharged on a Friday in early June. Amanda took the day off work to bring me home, to help me settle in, to play the role of devoted partner. We got to the apartment around 2 p.m. She'd cleaned everything, put fresh sheets on the bed, stocked the fridge with easy-to-digest foods Dr. Reeves had recommended. "I'm going to take such good care of you," she said, helping me to the couch. "I know you will," I said. "Hey, I'm exhausted. Would you mind if I took a nap?" "Of course not. You rest. I'll make dinner later." I went to the bedroom, closed the door, and texted Jake, now. While Amanda was in the living room, probably texting Tyler about how she just had to get through a few more weeks of the charade, Jake and a process server were parking outside our building. There was a knock on the door. I heard Amanda answer it. "Amanda Sterling?" "Yes." "You've been served." I heard papers rustling. A confused, "What is this?" Then silence. Long, terrible silence. Then, "Marcus?" I came out of the bedroom. Amanda was standing in the living room holding the lawsuit papers, her face white, her hands shaking. "What is this?" she whispered. "It's a lawsuit for breach of promise to marry, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and fraud. You'll also notice the second set of papers terminating your access to all our joint accounts and removing you from my medical power of attorney and beneficiary designations." "Marcus, I don't understand." "Yes, you do. I know about Tyler. I know about everything." The color drained from her face completely. "How long have you known?" "Long enough. Long enough to document everything. Long enough to build a case. Long enough to make sure you can't hurt me anymore." She started crying. "Marcus, please, I can explain." "Don't. I don't want your explanations. I want you out of this apartment by tomorrow. You have no legal right to be here anymore. I've already spoken to the landlord." "But this is my home." "No, it's not. Read the papers. You'll see I'm suing you for half the wedding expenses plus damages. You'll also see I have documented proof of your affair, including photographs, text messages, location data, and a recorded confession from Tyler." "You recorded him? That's illegal. Oregon is a one-party consent state." Jake consented to recording his own conversation. "Try again." She collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. "I never meant to hurt you. I just couldn't handle it. The cancer, the hospitals, watching you suffer. So you fucked the guy I saved while I was dying. Yes, I understand. Very difficult for you. Don't be cruel. Cruel? I laughed, and it sounded wrong even to my own ears. Empty. Cruel would be doing to you what you did to me. I'm not being cruel, I'm being legal. There's a difference. I love you, Marcus. I still love you. No, you don't. And honestly, I don't think you ever did. Because love doesn't do what you did. Love doesn't fuck someone else while their partner is fighting for their life. Love doesn't plan to break up with someone as soon as they're stable enough to handle it. Love doesn't hope someone dies so the relationship can be easier. She looked up sharply. How did you know about that? I know everything, Amanda. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment you chose him over me while I was poisoning myself to try to live long enough to marry you. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. Mistakes are accidental. This was systematic. You made a choice. Every text, every date, every time you fucked him while I was in that hospital bed. Those were choices. Please, we can fix this. Therapy, counseling, whatever you want. I want you gone, I said flatly. That's all I want. You have 24 hours to remove your belongings. Anything left after that will be donated or destroyed. You're not welcome here anymore. Where am I supposed to go? Tyler's apartment. The one you've been spending so much time at. I'm sure he'll take you in. She stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe the man she'd known had died in that hospital room and what was left was just cold calculation. I never wanted it to be like this, she whispered. Neither did I. But you made your choice. Now live with it. I walked back to the bedroom and closed the door. Heard her crying in the living room for another hour. Then heard her packing. Then heard the front door close. She was gone. But I wasn't done. The lawsuit proceeded exactly as Gregory had predicted. Amanda tried to fight it initially, hired a lawyer who argued that breach of promise cases were archaic and sexist. But the evidence was overwhelming. The texts, the photos, the timeline of her deception. More importantly, I'd done my homework on the financial damages. Between wedding expenses, medical bills exacerbated by stress, lost wages, and therapy costs, I could demonstrate over $80,000 0 cents in measurable harm. Her lawyer advised her to settle. The settlement gave me back my full contribution to the wedding expenses, plus half of hers. It also included a payment for emotional distress damages. In total, she paid me $65,000 0 cents. But the money was never really the point. The point was watching her face when she realized she'd lost everything. The wedding was canceled. The deposits forfeited, her reputation destroyed. I'd made sure our mutual friends knew exactly what happened, complete with screenshots. Tyler tried to contact me once. Sent a long, rambling email about how sorry he was, how he never meant for things to go so far, how he'd been wrong. I replied with a single line, "You said it would be easier if I died. I didn't die. Now you get to live with what you did to someone who saved your life." He didn't respond. Amanda tried a few times too. Late-night texts begging for forgiveness. Voicemails crying about how she'd made a terrible mistake. An email on what would have been our wedding day in October saying she'd never forgive herself. I blocked her on everything. 6 months later, I heard through mutual friends that she and Tyler had broken up. Apparently, the relationship couldn't survive the weight of what they'd done. Guilt and shame have a way of poisoning even the most passionate affairs once they're dragged into daylight. I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel anything at all. I'd won. Legally, financially, morally. I'd executed everything perfectly. And somehow, that precision made me question what kind of person I'd become. Looking back now, 18 months after discovering the betrayal, I can identify 3 critical lessons that every man needs to understand about relationships, trust, and what happens when both are destroyed. First, Trust your instincts, even when you don't want to believe them. The red flags were there from the beginning. Amanda's increasing distance, the phone calls in the hallway, the missing engagement ring, the inconsistencies in her stories. I saw all of it but actively chose denial because the alternative, that the woman I loved was betraying me while I fought cancer, was too painful to accept. Men are often socialized to ignore their gut feelings, to prioritize logic over intuition. But intuition is pattern recognition. When multiple small wrong things accumulate, they're telling you something true. Listen. Second, good deeds do not obligate others to be good people. I saved Tyler's life. Literally pulled him from a burning car. And he repaid that by sleeping with my fiancée while I was dying in a hospital bed. There's a dangerous belief that the universe operates on some cosmic justice system, that if you do good things will happen to you. It's not true. People are capable of profound selfishness and cruelty, regardless of what you've done for them. The only thing you can control is your own behavior. You cannot control theirs. Third, when betrayal happens, you have two choices. You can let it destroy you emotionally, or you can channel that pain into something productive. I chose calculation over emotion. Some people would say I became cold, that I lost my humanity in the pursuit of revenge. Maybe they're right, but what I gained was control. I didn't beg. I didn't plead. I didn't try to win her back. I recognized that someone who could do what she did was not someone worth having, and I made sure that the consequences of her actions were real and measurable. But here's what nobody tells you about winning. Sometimes victory is hollow. I got my money back. I got my revenge. I proved I could execute a perfect legal destruction of two people who wronged me. And at the end of it all, I was still alone. Still damaged. Still learning to trust again. The cancer went into full remission. I've been clear for over a year now, but the emotional scars from Amanda's betrayal cut deeper than any physical illness. I've been in therapy for 8 months, working through trust issues that manifest in every potential relationship. I find myself analyzing women for signs of deception, waiting for the inevitable betrayal, unable to fully open up. Is that fair to them? No. Is it the reality of what trauma does to you? Yes. I've started dating again. Cautiously. There's a woman, Rebecca, who I've been seeing for 3 months. She's patient with my guardedness, understanding when I struggle with vulnerability. She knows what happened, knows why I'm the way I am. But sometimes I catch myself analyzing her phone use, questioning her explanations for being late, running scenarios of potential betrayal. And I hate that Amanda gave me this. Horror, this inability to trust. This assumption that everyone will eventually hurt me the way she did. The legal victory was clean. The emotional recovery is still in progress. Which brings me to the question that keeps me up at night, the one I can't answer with spreadsheets or evidence or legal documents. I'm sitting in my new apartment now, the one I moved into after leaving the place I shared with Amanda. It's a high-rise downtown with a view of the city, bigger than I need, paid for partially with the settlement money she gave me. It's 2 a.m., and I can't sleep. This happens sometimes. I'll be fine for days, weeks even, and then something will trigger a memory. Tonight it was seeing a couple at dinner, the way the woman touched the man's hand across the table, the way they looked at each other. The way Amanda used to look at me before she looked at Tyler instead. I pulled out my phone and found myself scrolling through old photos. There's one from Crater Lake, right after I proposed. Amanda's crying, those happy tears, the ring on her finger, the sunrise behind her. She looks so genuinely happy. Was she? Or was I just seeing what I wanted to see? There's another from a month before my diagnosis. We're at Jake's birthday party, both slightly drunk, laughing at something someone said off camera. We look like people in love. Were we? Or was she already thinking about leaving me, already feeling trapped by a relationship she wanted to escape? And here's the question that haunts me, the dilemma I can't resolve. Did I do the right thing? I destroyed her systematically. I took her money, her reputation, her future with Tyler. I made sure everyone knew what she'd done. I showed no mercy, no forgiveness, no compassion for the fact that watching someone you love suffer from cancer is genuinely traumatic. She handled it in the worst possible way. She betrayed me, lied to me, cheated on me with the man whose life I'd saved. She planned to leave me as soon as I was stable enough. She hurt me in ways I'm still processing. But did that give me the right to hurt her back with such cold precision? The lawyer in my head says yes. She committed actionable wrongs. She caused measurable damages. The lawsuit was justified. The consequences were proportional. But the human in my chest isn't so sure. Because here's what I learned. Revenge doesn't heal you. It doesn't undo the betrayal. It doesn't make you whole again. It just gives you something to do with the pain besides feel it. I won. I destroyed them both. I executed everything perfectly. And I'm still broken. Rebecca texted me an hour ago. A simple, thinking of you, hope you're sleeping well. She's kind. She's honest. She's nothing like Amanda. But I still can't fully trust her, because Amanda taught me that love isn't protection against betrayal. So I sit here in my expensive apartment, legally victorious, emotionally scarred, wondering if the person I became in pursuit of justice is someone I even recognize anymore. I saved a man's life, and he destroyed mine. My fiancée betrayed me when I was dying. And in response, I became something cold and calculating and efficient. I got everything I wanted from the revenge. The money, the validation, the proof that actions have consequences. But late at night, when the victory feels hollow and the future looks uncertain, I ask myself, what did I actually win? And I still don't have an answer. The phone is in my hand. I could call Rebecca, let her in, try to build something real with someone who deserves my trust. Or I could stay here in this fortress I've built from legal victories and emotional distance, safe from ever being hurt like that again, but also safe from ever really connecting. That's the real dilemma. Not whether I was justified in what I did to Amanda and Tyler. I was. They earned every consequence. The real question is whether I'll let what they did define the rest of my life. Whether I'll stay in this cold, controlled place I built to survive the betrayal, or risk being vulnerable again knowing it could destroy me. I look at Rebecca's text again. 3 words. Simple. Kind. Kind. Real. My finger hovers over the keyboard. And I still don't know what to do. Okay, that's it for this one. Alex here. I'm leaving this one up to you guys. What is your takeaway here? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget, if you want your story told on the channel, send it over to the email in the description. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow with another story. Peace.